Imagine being trapped under debris, conscious and alert, talking to rescuers who can't save you. For 3 days, that's exactly what happened to a 13-year-old girl in Colombia, and the whole world watched helplessly. Volcanic eruptions are among nature's most terrifying forces, and today we're looking at some of the most tragic deaths ever recorded. These aren't just statistics, these are real people who faced unimaginable circumstances. Stick around, because some of these stories will absolutely haunt you. Let's start with one of the most heartbreaking volcanic disasters in history. November 13, 1985, 13-year-old Omaira Sanchez was at home in Armero, Colombia, when Nevado del Ruiz volcano erupted 30 miles away. Now, here's the thing about volcanic eruptions. Sometimes it's not the lava that kills you, it's what comes after. The eruption melted glacial ice on the mountain's peak, creating massive mudflows called lahars. Think of lahars like concrete that moves like a flood. They're composed of water, rock, sand, and debris, racing down river valleys at speeds up to 37 miles per hour, picking up everything in their path. Trees, buildings, vehicles, everything. At 11:25 p.m., the first lahar struck Armero, a town of 29,000 people. The wall of mud and debris was over 130 feet high in some places. Within minutes, 85% of Armero was buried under several feet of volcanic debris that hardened like cement as it settled. Omaira was in her family's house when the lahar struck. The roof and walls collapsed, trapping her underneath. Her legs were pinned beneath a door and other debris, while cold, contaminated water filled the space around her, up to her chest. Her aunt and brother had also been trapped nearby, but both died within hours from their injuries and hypothermia. Here's where this story gets absolutely devastating. For 3 days, Omaira remained conscious and alert. She spoke with rescue workers and journalists who gathered around where she was trapped, and despite their desperate efforts, they couldn't free her. The heavy equipment they needed wasn't available, and trying to pull her out risked causing further collapse or injury. The water around her was filled with debris and waste. Her legs had begun to develop gangrene from lack of circulation. Photographer Frank Fournier captured haunting images of Omaira during her ordeal, her face above the muddy water, eyes wide, but somehow accepting. She spoke calmly with rescuers about her family, her school, her dreams. The composure this young girl showed was absolutely remarkable. After 60 hours trapped in the debris, Omaira succumbed to gangrene and hypothermia. Her death became a symbol of the Armero tragedy, which killed over 25,000 people. The government's inadequate warning system led to improved volcanic monitoring protocols in Colombia and around the world. Now, let's talk about a scientist who knew exactly what he was getting into. May 18, 1980. USGS volcanologist David Johnston was monitoring Mount St. Helens from an observatory 5 miles north of the volcano. This 30-year-old scientist had been tracking the volcano's increasing activity for months. Earthquakes, ground deformation, gas emissions, all signs that magma was rising beneath the surface. On the morning of May 18th, he was alone at the observation post, monitoring seismic equipment. At 8:32 a.m., a magnitude 5.1 earthquake triggered a massive landslide on the volcano's north face. Within seconds, a lateral blast erupted from the exposed magma chamber. Superheated gas, ash, and rock fragments raced across the landscape at over 370 miles per hour. Johnston's final radio transmission came at 8:32 a.m. Vancouver, this is it. The lateral blast reached his position within minutes. The force of that blast was equivalent to 24 megatons of TNT. That's 1,600 times more powerful than the Hiroshima atomic bomb. Everything within the blast zone was either vaporized, buried, or blown away. Johnston's body was never found. The eruption killed 57 people total and caused over $1 billion in damage, but his sacrifice provided crucial real-time data about the eruption process. His final transmission became one of the most famous last words in scientific history. June 3, 1991. French volcanologists Katia and Maurice Kraft were filming pyroclastic flows on Mount Unzen in Japan. This husband and wife team had spent over 20 years documenting active volcanoes around the world. They were known for taking extreme risks to capture close-up footage that most people would never see. Now, if you don't know what pyroclastic flows are, let me explain. They're composed of superheated gas and rock fragments reaching temperatures over 1470 degrees Fahrenheit, moving at speeds up to 62 miles per hour. They're among the most dangerous volcanic phenomena you can encounter. The crafts had established a position on a ridge they believed was safe. But here's the deal with volcanoes. They're notoriously unpredictable. At approximately 4:08 p.m., a partial collapse of the lava dome generated a pyroclastic flow significantly larger than previous ones. The superheated debris cloud overwhelmed their observation position before they could escape. American volcanologist Harry Glicken was working nearby and was also caught in the same flow. The flow killed 43 people total. When rescue teams reached the area, they found the craft's bodies still in their filming position, their camera equipment partially melted from the extreme heat. Maurice had once said they were addicted to volcanoes and willing to accept the risks to capture footage that could save lives. Their legacy continues through the Katia and Maurice Craft Foundation, which supports volcanic research worldwide. Let's stay at Mount Unzen for a moment, because Harry Glicken's story is particularly tragic. This 33-year-old USGS scientist had narrowly avoided death at Mount St. Helens 11 years earlier. He was scheduled to relieve David Johnston at the observatory on May 18, 1980, but plans changed, and Johnston stayed instead. Glicken had been Johnston's graduate student and close friend. Johnston's death profoundly affected his career. After Mount St. Helens, Glicken became one of the world's leading experts on volcanic debris flows, dedicating his career to understanding the processes that had killed his mentor. He'd survived Mount St. Helens by chance, only to die doing the same work 11 years later at Mount Unzen. December 9, 2019. 47 tourists and guides were exploring White Island, New Zealand's most active volcano. This privately owned volcanic island had been a popular tourist destination for decades. Visitors could walk on an active volcano and see steaming vents and crater lakes up close. On the morning of December 9th, multiple tour groups had landed on the island. The tourists ranged from teenagers to elderly visitors, coming from around the world. They were exploring the main crater area, taking photographs. At 2:11 p.m., with no immediate warning, White Island exploded. The eruption sent a massive plume of steam, ash, and rock fragments into the sky, while pyroclastic surges raced across the island. Everyone on the island was caught completely by surprise. Those nearest the eruption center were killed instantly. Others suffered severe burns from superheated steam, reaching temperatures over 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Helicopter pilots showed extraordinary courage, flying multiple rescue missions through dangerous conditions. 22 people died in the disaster, while 25 others were severely injured. The tragedy raised serious questions about the regulation of adventure tourism on active volcanoes. Let's go back in time to one of the deadliest volcanic eruptions ever recorded. May 8, 1902. Mount Pelee, on the French Caribbean island of Martinique, erupted catastrophically, destroying the city of Saint-Pierre. This volcano had been showing signs of increased activity for weeks, but colonial authorities downplayed the danger to prevent panic. Saint-Pierre was Martinique's largest city, with about 28,000 people. The city was built just 5 miles from the volcano's summit, placing it directly in the path of any major eruption. Elections were scheduled for May 11th, and the colonial governor was determined to prevent panic. At 7:52 a.m. on May 8th, Mount Pelee exploded with tremendous violence. A superheated pyroclastic flow raced down the mountainside towards Saint-Pierre at speeds exceeding 62 miles per hour. The cloud reached temperatures over 1800 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt glass and metal instantly. The pyroclastic flow reached Saint-Pierre in less than 3 minutes, engulfing the entire city. People were killed instantly, their bodies flash-burned. Ships in the harbor caught fire immediately. Within minutes, Saint-Pierre was completely destroyed. Remarkably, there were only 2 known survivors. Approximately 30,000 people died in the disaster, making it one of the deadliest volcanic eruptions in recorded history. The Mount Pelee disaster led to major advances in volcanology and modern volcano monitoring procedures. These stories remind us of the incredible power of nature and the bravery of those who study these deadly forces to keep others safe. If you found this video informative, Subscribe for more content like this. Drop your suggestions in the comments below. Thanks for watching.